On today's show, the Cleveland Cavaliers probably wished they had brown shorts on after this loss to the Charlotte Hornets. Hear about this and more on today's Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
How you doing? It's Evan Dammarell here, co-host of Locked On Cavs, flying solo for the third episode in a row this week after my faithful subordinate Jackson Flickinger at Down Euclid canceled on me last second because, shout out to the Cleveland Charge getting an overtime win, and Jackson was covering that for RDE. So if you want to check us out, we're a nonprofit news org, and we are totally driven by reader support like yours. But before we get started talking about this absolute turd the Cleveland Cavaliers laid in the bowl of the Charlotte Hornets, I have to let you know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started today. So, the Cleveland Cavaliers laid a bit of an egg against the Charlotte Hornets in this matchup. No Donovan Mitchell still. We'll touch on him later in the show, but Shams Charania of The Athletic did report that the Cavs might get Mitchell back against the Philadelphia 76ers on Friday, but, it might be a case of too little too late because the Cavaliers dropped this game 118-111 against the Charlotte Hornets, and I have to say that there were moments in this game that the Cavaliers definitely felt and seemed like they were going to pull away, win this one, especially in the first half. You're thinking like, okay, this is a really bad Hornets team. They are looking to win the draft lottery. Maybe they get Alexandre Sarr out of France, or maybe they get the French wing that, the Franceman and me cannot pronounce properly, but either way, they have a really good player in Brandon Miller. They have LaMelo Ball, who is not available for this game. But the Cavs, understandably, were 11-point favorites heading into this matchup. Actually, no, 10.5 favorites heading into this matchup. And so, it's understandable, especially after the shellacking the Cavs delivered to the Hornets and the way the Hornets played the Cavs to open this game. You're thinking, okay, the Hornets are trying to zone again. The Cavs are burning them from the perimeter, whether it's Max Strus, who went 5 of 10 from three-point range, or this is final stats, of course, Sam Merrill, who went 5 of 11 from three-point range, or George Niang, who was, again, on a heater, had 4 or 5 from three-point range, or even Darius Garland, who, I'll talk about him in a bit, but he really hamstrung the Cavs just with his turnovers, but was at least 3 of 10 from three-point range. The Cavs were getting production on the perimeter from players not named Jarrett Allen, Karis LeVert, Craig Porter Jr. and Tristan Thompson. That's kind of to be expected at this point, but it was a frustrating loss because the Cavs gave the Hornets the opportunity to climb back into this game, to find an opportunity to just find ways to win this game, and it really fell apart in the third quarter for Cleveland when they were outscored 31-26, and then in the fourth quarter, no shots fell. There was a brief moment where the Cavs took the lead, and then I believe they had 2 or 3 turnovers in a row. They missed both of their free throws, and they just threw up a couple of bricks, and the Hornets were able to convert and slightly outscore Cleveland 18-15 in a game played not in the early 2000s or even the mid to late 90s. 18-15 in 2024, the year of our Lord. The Cavs were outscored, they were beaten, and they were frankly humiliated by the Hornets. I cannot understate the fact that this might go up there with one of the worst losses for the Cavs this season, and I think a lot of that just has to fall on the fact that the Cavs quit. They gave up. They were careless with the basketball. I think Darius Garland is the biggest suspect of this. He continues to kind of be inconsistent for the Cavs, and he just turns over the ball consistently and just is so lackluster. And I think we can continue to make excuses or platitudes that like, oh, and I do it all the time. Like he's not 100%, whether it's because of his weight or his physicality or whatever, but turnovers have been a consistent issue with Garland from the moment he became the starting point guard and got paid like the franchise point guard for the Cavs, and it continues to hamstring them because the Hornets had 27 points off of Cleveland's turnovers, and you can't do that, especially against a bad team like the Hornets who are losing more often than not. Steve Clifford just, is completely asleep at the wheel. And this is just such a frustrating loss for the Cavaliers because they literally had everything set in place for them to win this game, win this matchup, feel good about themselves on a 2-game winning streak after up and down play all throughout this post-All-Star game stretch, heading into a Friday matchup against the Philadelphia 76ers where maybe you get Donovan Mitchell back, but people may think Donovan Mitchell is going to be the end-all be-all solution. I agree, like, to an extent that like he is the MVP for the Cavs, but this team has just been so overwhelmingly underwhelming as a squad this year, and they're just too talented to like continue to fail against bad teams like this. Like Chris and I, when we were both on the air, talked about this when they lost to the Blazers. Like, this is just one of those games that sticks in your craw for a while, and it's unfortunate because the Cavs have the playoffs looming after this one. Like, they are going to have to deal with the fact that there were clear and apparent issues that really exposed their issues, the limitations, and just their flaws. And I harped on Garland, but like Evan Mobley deserves some criticism as well. Like, he came out of the gate super hot and then just completely fell off a cliff. Like, Charlotte struggles with defending big men. They have not had a good big man since Big Al. Went back when they were the Charlotte Bobcats, for God's sake. And Evan Mobley comes out red hot, exploits that matchup. The Hornets wall off with the zone defense. The Cavs exploit that matchup. They hit a lot of threes. And they stretch out Charlotte on the perimeter and keep them honest defensively, so they have to switch back to man defense. But the Cavs don't exploit that, and Evan Mobley doesn't exploit that, and he becomes kind of a one-note player. Like, across the Rubicon, like, you're hoping for these guys to take a step forward instead they're taking several steps back. And I mean, goodness gracious, there's 9 games to go until the playoffs begin. And like, there are so many questions about this Cavs team that whomever they draw in the first round, like Chris and I have talked about the Indiana Pacers or the Orlando Magic being like a preferable matchup, but I just don't know at this point because the Cavs are more than comfortable with playing down to the opposition. They are not willing to, as they put it themselves, put their foot on the throat of an opposition or an opposing opponent, put their foot on the throat of the opposition and never relent. But they can do that, but they can't do it for 4 full quarters yet. And with 90 games to go in the regular season, I don't know where that answer is coming from at this juncture. Like, that is just so incredibly frustrating. And I cannot just say enough, like, how disappointing that is. Just someone that covers this team and also like has like a personal stake in this team just because like we interact with our fans, listen to them all the time. But it's just a disappointment. But okay, let's take a quick breather, get a quick word in from our sponsors, and we'll be back more to talk more about, Max Strus looked pretty good. That's a silver lining. I think Sam Merrill did too. We'll talk about the good from this win against Charlotte. But first, got to get a quick word in from today's sponsors. Today's episode of Locked On Cavs is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver who likes to push things further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is the perfect for city drivers and great escapes and the perfect mid-size crossover for anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built into 12-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. Meanwhile, the 2024 Nissan Armada will change what you expect from a full-size SUV. Picture a rugged 4x4 that can seat up to 8 in the first-class luxury and style that can now tow bigger and explore further. Once you do, and you open your eyes, you'll realize it's a 2024 Armada. So, if you're interested, take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. And check them out today at shopnissanusa.com. Today's episode of Locked On Cavs is also brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences from smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV, which provides access to millions of movies and TV's episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball, which the Guards are opening up today as of this episode, or the college basketball tournament, which my picks are shot because the Zips blew it for me, you're going to want to have Fire TV just to check it all out. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On, including this ugly mug, and most of the big pro leagues and college for conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date with the latest in the world of sports. That includes March Madness, the NBA, MLB, and more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, and cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. And if you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOn Fire TV. So we are back. Let's talk a little bit more about something I want to share with you guys before we head back into this. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for your everyday to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you the can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube with a free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. But other than Fire TV and also the Locked On Sports Network 24/7 stream, Max Strus made his return for the Cavs, and I have to say, despite the limitations, he plays 24 minutes, 25 seconds. He finished 7 of 13 from the floor, 5 of 10 from three-point range, and overall had 19 points, 4 rebounds, 3 fouls, 2 steals, 3 turnovers, and, -1 in terms of plus-minus, but plus-minus is kind of misleading because the Cavs just took a giant dookie in the floor overall. But I think Strus, all things considered, the fact that he missed so much time with that knee injury, the fact that his first shot was a shot from the perimeter that went right in, even though it wasn't smooth like some mouthpieces may say, it bounced in and out and went right back in, but it felt reassuring just to see Max Strus back out there. I think he can be a catalyst. He continues to be a catalyst for this team. And when the Cavs were riding high against Charlotte, Max Strus is kind of centrifugal at that. There was a possession where Isaac Okoro missed a shot attempt, and Max Strus, this was early into the game, where he grabbed the offensive rebound and then proceeded to put it back and get a quick bucket. You just have guys like Strus, I think in the same vein to Donovan Mitchell, where they are active as players. I don't know how else to describe it, but they are active in the sense that they try their darndest to get those second chance opportunities, or they try to grab defensive rebounds that initiate on the fast break, where they will try to look for easy buckets or easy opportunities to score. And they're just guys that play hard, frankly. Other than dudes that just hustle. You could make all the white guy stereotypes you want about Max Strus. I married a Pollock, so it's okay. I can talk about Max Strus in this vein. But I think obviously the most attractive thing that comes with Max Strus, and the why the Cavs signed him, is he went 5 of 10 from 3. You want him just shooting as many attempts he can get. One, because he's always just been Cleveland's minute leader as just a player, and also is one of their most volatile players, because when he's hot and he's locked in, we all know it. He can heave it from 60 feet and hit a game winner inexplicably, or he can just be a guy that is consistently bringing you the edge, whether it's through his just extra hustle. And he didn't have an assist in this game, but he also is capable as a playmaker and passer too. So I think that's just really helpful. And I think just getting Strus back sooner than expected. I was surprised to see him on the injury report listed as questionable, which in my eyes is a game time decision. And seeing him back out there is just encouraging because he wanted to shake off a little bit of this rust. And I think this game, despite the loss, was a game where he could shake off that rust because he got 13 shot attempts, 10 from the perimeter. They're all within the flow of Cleveland's offensive system where there's constant movement on Strus's part where he's getting a look that's either wide open or pretty darn close to wide open, and he's just taking it, and 50% of the time he was making it in this game against Charlotte. And that's what you want for a guy who's missed quite a bit of time after the All-Star break, and you want him to kind of get reacclimated and recomfortable back into this overall rotation as you just kind of look ahead of the playoffs. And speaking of the playoff rotation, let's talk about one Sam Merrill, because this is where I wish Jackson Flickinger didn't dip on me, because Merrill was kind of an X factor in this game against Charlotte. I think his play against the Hornets is just another indication of the fact that he has more or less crystallized his spot in Cleveland's playoff rotation. Like Merrill, I noticed this in the first half or the second half as well. Like he would get the ball, maybe he doesn't get a look he likes, he would dump it off to somebody who is on the nail, or somebody who's just like at the top of the perimeter, and would start moving to break apart Charlotte's defense to find a more opportune wide open 3-point attempt, or just take advantage of the fact that like the Hornets had the course correct and overreact to the fact that the Cavs have other players on the floor, whether it's Max Strus, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, George Niang, like Isaac Okoro, the list goes on. So Merrill can kind of benefit from the fact that like there are just too many threats on the floor, and he can be that fourth or fifth option that, I don't want to say it's similar to Steph, but like, or Garland or Mitchell, but like can bend opposing defenses certain ways where Merrill gets like opportune shots on his behalf. Or on the other side of things, as I do hand moves on the video feed of this show, can also do things to unlock things for the guys on the interior, whether that's like Mobley or Allen or Thompson or Damian Jones if he happens to play, or guys in the perimeter like Mitchell, Garland, Yang, Strus, Okoro, Levert, etc. Like the Cavs are a better team when Sam Merrill is finding his shot and finding a flow within the offense. And I think he was a bit of an X factor in this game against the Hornets. I think there were moments where he kind of kept the Cavs in this game when it got out of hand, when the Cavs just kind of gave up defensively. But looking ahead to the playoffs, like Sam Merrill could remain an X factor for the Cavs. And I think like looking at this final rotation, you have to find minutes for him as a player because he will only make life easier for the Cavs overall. And with how hard this season has been, that's all you really can do. But speaking of making life easier, ladies and gentlemen, Donovan Mitchell may be back in the building. Well, he's been in the building, but he may be back on the floor when the Cleveland Cavaliers host the Philadelphia 76ers on Friday. And I'll talk about that more with Jordan Christmas for Friday's show when the Cavs face the Sixers, and we really go in deep on that. But let's talk about Donovan Mitchell coming back, because that's pretty big news. But first, got to give more words from today's sponsors. Today's episode of Locked On Cavs is brought to you by BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off of our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased on your life. I personally have gone to therapy. I've dealt with the suicide of a friend or trauma of the relationship or just in general, and the guilt that comes with said death of a friend because he couldn't help them or etc. But cannot recommend therapy enough. And I can really say that therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports teams, and it's important to get things off of your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp. BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. We are back, and ladies and gentlemen, I have nothing to tease other than check out Down Euclid. I work really hard on that. My co-host doesn't subscribe, but Donovan Mitchell, according to the Athletic, Shams Charania is targeting his return to the floor against when the Cavs face the Philadelphia 76ers on Friday at home. And based on my limited media interaction with JB Bickerstaff, this kind of tracks with the fact that Bickerstaff was optimistic in the fact that the Cavs could get back Mitchell, Strus, Dean Wade in the last 10 or so games in the regular season just to get them reacclimated onto the floor and get them comfortable back into what the Cavs are doing, and also just, help the guys that have been there so long at this point to find a little bit more footing and comfort and familiarity with what the Cavs are trying to do as a team. If you get Mitchell back, I think it makes your life a hell of a lot easier if you're the Cavs, because he is just such a dynamic player on either end of the floor. Like, defensively, sure, Quinn Snyder's probably punching air at this point because Mitchell's actually trying on defense for the Cavs, but more so the fact that Mitchell is engaged enough to be a bit of a pest. He's a bit of annoying to kind of funnel guys and switches with like Isaac Okoro or maybe Max Strus. But even if he doesn't have those switches, like, he is more than comfortable with being annoying and then funneling them towards Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, which is the Cavs' bread and butter. Like, they want to be a defensive first team. Mitchell is more than comfortable with acclimating to that and playing within what Cleveland works for as a strong defensive team, and he's not a liability in that capacity. On offense, though, like, Mitchell is heliocentric to everything the Cavs do. He provides them so much spacing in terms of three-point shooting. He provides them so much just scoring in just so many different ways. But I really want to go back to the defense real quick. Like, when Allen and Mobley on the floor, like, it's like, Niang and Mobley or Niang and Allen or Wade and Allen, or like any combination of Cleveland's bigs. They're boxing out the opposition. They're finding ways to prevent second chance opportunities. And guys like Donovan Mitchell, who are athletic freaks in nature, are able to crash the glass and get the ball out on fast break and like unlock that level of the Cavs that has been kind of lacking lately, where they aren't able to get the ball out in transition. They aren't able to score quick, easy buckets and just kind of keep either building a lead or finding ways just to keep momentum in their corner. And you really look at this game against Charlotte recently, like, you wish the Cavs had Mitchell, because Mitchell would have put the Hornets away pretty quickly, whether it's from the second chance opportunities, the way he's able to score, or just how he's able to impact the game with his intangibles. But the Cavs will be obviously a better team with Donovan Mitchell on the floor. I think it's just more opportune for the fact that even though he's on a minute restriction, like, you need him to get more comfortable with Garland. You need him to get comfortable with everybody else on the floor. And just kind of like on top of him, it's Mobley who's still dealing with a minute restriction. Strus is dealing with a minute restriction. You'd assume Wade is going to have one too. But like, these are all guys that are going to be vying for playoff minutes come playoff time and like minutes in the rotation. And you want them all to be comfortable and, shake off that rust with like the less than 10 games remaining in the regular season, so that they can then shift their focus during the play-in tournament when they are actually allowed to practice for the first time in forever to zero in on who their playoff opponent could be. Like, if it's the Pacers, the Magic, or the Knicks, or the Heat, or who knows, like the Cavs could catch up to the Bucks and maybe retake the 2 seed. But again, who knows what will happen, but having Mitchell back will just be a big benefactor for all that. It'll be a big difference maker for all that. And I think this upcoming Western Conference trip after this game against Philly will be a bit of a gut check and test to see, like, okay, how much gas do the Cavs have left in the tank? Because I don't think you can question their toughness. They are a tough team when dealt a very bad hand. Like, just look back to how they handled the situation when Garland and Mobley are out for almost 2 months. They handled that very well, and they've done okay without Mitchell, Mobley, Strus, Wade, and so many others in the rotation, and they're slowly getting those guys back and getting better. But now it's just a test of the guys who've been asked to play a lot more beyond their means. Like, how much more gas do they have in the tank to carry them through the last 10 or so regular season games, and then a best of 7 in the first round, and the best of 7 in the second round, and then, if God willing, a best of 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals. But we'll learn more about that because the Cleveland Cavaliers do face a possible playoff opponent and a team who's been a thorn in their side, and a guy who's I've been in the thorn of the side of, and you guys have heard from him before, but friend of the program, Jordan Christus, will be joining me tomorrow to talk more about the Cleveland Cavaliers Friday evening matchup against the Philadelphia 76ers, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But on our way out, I wanted to remind everyone that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available to Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Just looked up Locked On Sports today, and it is here for you for 24/7 coverage of your top sports stories of the day with the local experts, including this ugly bozo with a cat on his chest. He got a Glock and everything. And it also just includes our national shows covering every league. Find on Locked On Sports today on the free Fire TV channels app.